Hey, everybody.
I
Welcome. Welcome to our Wednesday Psalm reflection. Today we're looking at Psalm 95, which is our lectionary text for this coming Sunday.
I think
Uh,
it's Psalm 25.
25, Psalm 25. Thank you for paying attention. You passed the test, Sam. You
Oh,
may
was it
now,
that was a test?
the test, you may
Okay, cool.
now proceed by reading Psalm 25, verses 1 through 9. And now I'm scrambling to make sure that Psalm 25 is actually the one that I studied in preparation, and it
I was gonna
is.
say I
Oh,
recorded the wrong psalm. I spent all this time recording.
you scared us there for a second, Stefan.
Keeping you on your toes, man. You gonna read it for us?
Oh yeah. Me?
I think so, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Cameron had a Bible out, so I thought, oh, maybe Cameron wants to read this week.
I'm happy to read. It's 1 through
Yeah,
9, right?
let's have
Yeah.
Cameron read.
Let's do
Great.
it.
To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. In you I trust, O my God. Do not let me be put to shame, nor let my enemies triumph over me. No one whose hope is in you will ever be put to shame, but they will be put to shame who are treacherous without excuse. Show me your ways, O Lord. Teach me your paths. Guide me in your truth and teach me, for you are God my Savior, and my hope is in you all day long. Remember, O Lord, your great mercy and love, for they are from of old. Remember not the sins of my youth and my rebellious ways. According to your love, remember me, for you are good, O Lord. Good and upright is the Lord. Therefore he instructs sinners in his ways. He guides the humble in what is right and teaches them his way.
Very good.
What, by the way, what version are you using?
It's just NIV.
Oh, it must be an older version. Do you
Yeah,
think?
we've been doing New King James at home with the girls, and that's
Oh, yeah.
some wild stuff. Really cool though.
That is some
Yeah.
wild stuff.
Illuminating. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we've got here in Psalm 25 is another acrostic psalm. I think we've had maybe two of those already, haven't we, since we started doing this? So
Yeah,
this is
I think last week Psalm 145 was acrostic again, wasn't
that's
it?
right. Yep. That's there are nine acrostic psalms.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And there are scholars understand there to be three primary reasons why someone would write an acrostic psalm, why the psalms appear as acrostics, many of them.
Let me guess.
Go for it.
Memorization tool.
That's one. Very good.
A way to learn the alphabet?
Survey says no.
Er,
The other two are that it gives a sense that a subject is being covered completely, like from A to Z.
I was going to say that actually.
No, you weren't. And then the other reason is that it's just beautiful. That it's a literary device to add beauty and form. It's just like a way of writing a poem, like a haiku would be another way of writing a poem.
Yeah.
And so this is a Psalm of David. We don't know really when or exactly why he wrote this psalm, but because he was in trouble a lot of different times in his life, it could have been a lot of different occasions. But what we have here is a psalm that is written obviously by a very God-conscious person who is going through some hard things. And there's a few different interesting themes here that we could look at, but I'm curious, before I jump into any of my things that jumped out at me, do you guys have anything? What really kind of took your attention?
Go, Cameron.
Oh, okay. Um, well, I think the most quoted verse that I've heard sort of my whole life is number 7. Remember not the sins of my youth and my rebellious ways. According to your love, remember me, for you are good, O Lord.
Hmm.
And when I read it, I put a little emphasis on the word remember me, just because I feel like so often we judge ourselves based on the terrible things we've done basically in our lives, and that's like but the reality is that those things only constitute maybe like, well, I can only speak for Sam. They only they only constitute maybe 1% of their lives.
Mm.
And yet we judge our entire lives based on that 1% so often.
Mm.
And what I love is it's like, remember not those things, but according to your love, remember me. It's like,
Hmm.
remember the whole person that I made in your image, that I'm under your lordship, that, that my life is meant to be just, praise. So, yeah, so that's the sort of verse that's always stuck out to me with this psalm.
Let me jump on that because my little sign here says good memory, bad memory. So the psalmist, and this is exactly what you said, it's like the psalmist asks God to remember like his great love and his mercy, but then like sandwiched is like in the middle, it's like, but make sure you forget my sins. But then it's like, so the other part of the sandwich then is like, and remember me. So it's kind of like remember, forget, remember. And so good memory, bad memory. You're asking God to have a bad memory when it comes to my sins, especially the sins of my youth, which are often like, think of all the dumb stuff you did when you were in high school, when you were in, college, just all the dumb things. And so the psalmist is saying, please have a bad memory when it comes to all that stuff. But have a great memory when it comes to your love, your mercy, your forgiveness. So I think that's, to piggyback on Cameron, that's something worth kind of remembering ourselves and talking about this morning.
How long does our youth extend? Like, does that go into our 30s at all? Because
Nope.
no, it's just
Stephen, they're 35, 36.
I think I'm 37.
You are no longer a youth.
Oh, bummer. So God has already begun remembering all of my stuff.
Well, I mean, we could take a survey if people of our watchers of the lectionary want to write in and tell us what they think. When is the end of youth? 29?
That is a good question.
We're all a bunch of babies. We're all a bunch of emotional, insecure little babies that need God. Just putting it out there. The youth extends our entire life.
That's a good way to look at it in one sense. But look at this gray in my beard. Babies don't have gray in their beard.
No. Babies have very full dark beards.
But looking in the eyes of my baby every morning, that baby has wisdom that then we don't have.
Because there's a lack of corruption there? Is that?
Yeah, there's a purity and a I don't want to say closeness to God and like, I guess reliance on their mother. And if we had that same, it's that mother hen analogy in the Bible, that if we had that same sort of like unwavering reliance to have our needs met by God, there's a depth there that a 37-year-old person plus maybe doesn't have, So, yeah, I think it's important to look at time as like this just sort of never-ending circle,
That's very good. Let me add one more thing. That whole verse where it says, remember me, and you put the emphasis there, Cameron, I thought that was good. It just reminded me when the thief on the cross asked Jesus to remember him.
Mm-hmm.
That is great.
And I wonder if the thief, who may have been Jewish, I don't know if he was Gentile or Jewish, but if he was Jewish, then he probably, even though he found himself on a cross, he may have known the Psalms as well. And so maybe he was quoting a verse of Psalm 25, remember me.
That's a great thought. And also adding to that, in that remembering, forgetting sandwich, it uses that word that we hear over and over in the Psalms, hesed, which is loving kindness. So that's the kind of thing that we're asking God to remember. That's great. Let's take a look at verse 3. So verse 3 says, no one who puts hopes in you will ever be put to shame, but shame will come on those who are treacherous without cause. And then there's this idea of shame and of hope. And it strikes me that those in many ways might feel like opposites, right? Where hope is something that is alive and moving forward, and shame is something that is like deadening and pulling you into the past. And then the psalmist is talking about how he's waiting on the Lord. And I read something this week that talked about how waiting is not a passive waiting, not like a twiddling your fingers kind of waiting, but the waiting is more like a waiter at a table, so like attending to. So and I wondered if that connects with the hope aspect of this. So like we're waiting on the Lord, we're showing up with hope, paying attention, being alert, and staying attentive to what God is doing for us. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's a great idea. I've never thought of waiting in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I've never heard it compared to like waiting on tables. Because we often think of waiting as just an empty activity. We're just waiting for something to happen.
Mm-hmm.
In one sense, the waiter is kind of waiting for the order.
Yeah.
But it's an attentive. It's like paying attention while waiting.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a different feel to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. Anything else stick out to you guys?
Just one thing I read was sometimes one of the books that I have that I go to, kind of a resource to help me kind of dive a little bit deeper into the Psalms. Sometimes they talk about how the psalm can be used like in a worship service or like liturgically. And so the suggestion for this psalm was it could be used as like a confession of sin and an assurance of pardon. So the congregation could offer up their own petitions of prayer and then end with the refrain, "To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul." Or even, "In you, Lord, I put my trust," could be the refrain that happens. So I always think that's kind of interesting to see how the psalm might function in a worship setting and how we could use it both as a personal prayer, but as a congregational prayer as well.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Cameron, did you do some digging into settings of Psalm 25?
Yeah, I've been waiting to use this book. Phyllis Steensma from church dropped this special book of praise. It's the Anglo-Genevan Psalter in my mailbox because she's been tuning into our psalm conversations.
Very cool.
Hi, Phyllis.
There's like literally just sort of single line melodies of these psalms, and I've been waiting to use it. And this one sort of stuck out because I was able to find some chords under this single line melody, and it's set in sort of a very like Renaissance style way. But I found that like something about the openness and the lack of meter, as you can see for musicians, the meter is like 1 over half note, whatever that means. Basically, it's like it's weird because it's like there's like a looseness to it, and there's also like a deep structure to it. And I found it was really contemplative, sort of learning this psalm. And so thank you, Phyllis, for sending me this book. And we've done a few requests, throughout COVID for the services too. And I always appreciate when community members are like, "Will you please play this?" And I finally got around to this, but it's a beautiful setting.
Great. I'm excited to hear it.
Me too.
Thanks, guys, for your
Thank
contributions to helping me understand Psalm 25.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. We'll see everybody next week, I guess.
Next week.
Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Unto thee, O Lord, my Savior, I lift up my waiting soul. O my God, in thee I trusted. Let guide.